Everybody, happy 2026. Wanted to make a video today and talk about a really cool aspect of the magical, mystical world of recovery that I get to be a part of. I want to talk about God winks. That's what I call them. Different people call them different things. You could call it synchronicity, coincidence, kismet. And I'm not by any means saying that me as a man in long-term recovery has some stranglehold on these God winks. But I have noticed that potentially simply because I'm more aware of it, I notice them a lot more when I'm practicing the principles of my recovery program. So story, ride with me. Okay. This past weekend, my wife and I, and obviously baby Sloan, went up to Sequim, Washington. My wife is very involved in the service aspects of the recovery program we participated in. So they had a statewide meeting that she needed to be at. So we went up to Sequim. Sequim is a small little spot up there, way northwest Washington State. Matter of fact, I mean, it's so close, like people take a ferry from there to Canada. The town over is a place called Port Townsend. And I so happen to have a friend of mine that I knew from recovery, who I knew back in Maryland, where I'm from, my little small town, Severna Park, Maryland, where I'm from. I met him there. And we've stayed in touch over the years. This was 13 years ago. We stayed in touch over the years, and he's moved around a bit and somehow, not somehow, I can tell that story another time, but he ended up moving to Port Townsend, Washington. So my plan was when we went up there to meet up with him and introduce him to Lauren and Sloan and just say hey and give him a hug, which is really, love being able to do that. So we had that plan set. We get up there Friday evening. We check into the hotel. Now, we were not staying at the hotel that this large meeting was at. They had a block of rooms, but we didn't book in time, so we had to stay at a hotel about 10 minutes away. And we checked in, I was getting the car parked, and as I'm walking back into the hotel, I see a guy walking a corgi. And I love dogs, and I love corgis. And so I said, hey, can I say hi? And he said, oh, yeah. And I got to meet his pup. Her name was Precious. She's a 7-month-old corgi, super sweet, super cool. Him and I chatted for a minute and then kind of went our ways. And I told Lauren about it when I got up to the room because she loves corgis too. Well, the next day comes and she heads out to go to her meeting. And Sloan and I go over to meet her at lunchtime at the location that the meeting's at. We walk in and we kind of sit down in the back so we can eat lunch together. There's probably 150 people at this meeting. And right away, who do I see but the guy who had the corgi last night comes walking by. Not only was he at the meeting, he was sitting right next to Lauren. So strange. And about 2 minutes after that, a woman starts walking towards me and I see, she looks familiar, but I can't place her. And she comes over and she goes, are you Jeff Hatch from Severna Park, Maryland? I said, I am. And she told me her name. And sure enough, we had known each other from recovery back in that same town in Maryland 13, 14 years ago. She was there at this same meeting that Lauren was at because she's very active in service as well. And she happens to live now in Port Townsend. So, unbelievably small world moment. That night, we get to go over and meet my buddy who lives there. We go out to dinner with him. We're sitting in this little Mexican restaurant in Port Townsend, Washington. And who walks in but someone that we know from recovery here in Vancouver, Washington, who was also up at that meeting in Sequim, who also happened to come over to Port Townsend that evening to have dinner with someone, who also happened to go to the same restaurant we were at. Now, these are like not world-shaking coincidences, But I call them God winks because what Lauren and I talked about afterwards was when things like that are happening, I get the feeling intuitively that I am walking in the direction I'm supposed to be walking in. That, you know, things are unfolding as the universe intends, and the God of my understanding is giving me a little wink and saying, just keep going, buddy. So anyway, again, I'm trying to bring exposure to kind of like some of these really cool things that happen in the world of long-term recovery that I think people who don't have direct experience with it or know people like us get to hear about, and I want to share them with you guys because it's seriously, there's some mystical thing, and it's really beautiful. So hope you guys have a great Monday, and share some God winks with me if you want. Bye.